Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Melissa and this is Melissa Knits for Fun. Well, today I've got 2 new whips because, you know, just having 15 or whatever it was just wasn't enough. I had to add 2 more to the count. But one of them is already almost off the needles and you're going to want to hang around and see that one because it rivals last week's finished object for cuteness. I've got a few other things. I've got some exciting new acquisitions as well as some that I got at no cost to me, and I have a product that I've reviewed so that you don't have to. All right, let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing, or at least what I know about what I am wearing, because this came out of a Noro magazine. I knit this a couple of years ago, and this was one of the fastest knits I've ever done. I knit it in a week. From start to finish was 1 week's worth of knitting. And I knit this out of not only the recommended yarn, which is the Noro Akira, I think it's Akira. I also knit it out of the suggested color, the exact colorway they used in the magazine, because I loved it so much. I mean, what's not to love? Beautiful purple and pink and this pale color. It just looks so great, and it self-stripes. I did nothing except for work this lace. All of the striping was done exactly by the yarn. So this one was a really easy knit. It is a circular yoke. Not quite sure that I love circular yokes, and this is one that kind of made me wonder if I did, because when I lift my arm, luckily I did make it long enough that when I lift my arms up, it doesn't just flash the whole world. But I also get this little bit of fabric right here, and I will tell you, I was watching a video by Young Folk Knits the other day, and she talks about that if you do a circular yoke that you probably want the underarm to come down a little bit further, and I'm thinking it was just too tight up here, because if you have them come down a little bit further, that fabric has somewhere to drape. Now, I haven't tried that. The next circular yoke that I do, I will probably have to give that a try and see if that does work and it helps to kind of do something with this fabric here that I don't especially love, but I do really, really love this pattern. It is absolutely gorgeous. I was going to say stunning, but somebody pointed out to me the other day, they said, oh, we should do a drinking game every time Melissa says stunning. And watching my videos recently and doing all of the editing, I'm like, wow, that would be a heck of a drinking game, because I use the word stunning a lot. So I'm going to try to find other words to describe my knits. But there's only so many things, right? There's beautiful, there's stunning, there's gorgeous, there's luscious, there's, you know, there's only so many ways that you can say the same thing. So I will say that this is a beautiful pattern, and I do really, really love it. It is a little hot for summer. I would not wear this outside today. It is really hot outside. We are in that stage of walking on the surface of the sun, and this has mohair in it, and it's wool. I wish they had a long sleeve version of this. I think that would have looked excellent, but I really don't think that I did a lot. I'm not sure that I did anything once I split for sleeves. I'm not sure that I did anything but do maybe a border. So there was no instructions on sleeves. I wish that there had been. I think this would be a beautiful, beautiful pattern in long sleeves. Probably won't ever change it, but I will just wear it in the spring and the fall, because it does have, like I said, mohair in it, and it has wool in it. So it is not something that I'm going to wear outside. And I am, you know, suffering a little bit for y'all so that I can wear this, because I don't think that I've worn this on a regular podcast before. I may have in a knit and chat, but I don't think I have in a regular podcast. All right, so let's talk about the things that are on my needles right now. And I'm going to start with my test knits like I always do, and I am going to show you I have made some pretty good progress on most of them. All right, or actually on all of them. This is the Mossridge, and this is by Sophie Hemingway. I think it's Hemingway. Sophie from the Knit Pearl Girl. And this is the Mossridge, and I have just joined the front section together. I'm still working on the moss stitch, so I have just joined the front together, and I am in the middle of a row because I ran out of yarn, and I decided, and you'll see several of these, I'm at the end of a ball of yarn, and I decided it'd be much easier just to bring them in here and not have to worry about the yarn. So I did that. This is knit out of Bois Ramu in the colorway Fox. And I love this. This is one of my favorite colors. And I cannot wait to get this down. This is not exactly sitting right because this is further up here. So I've got quite a bit to knit. Cannot wait to get it to where that I join it in the round, because shortly thereafter I will start working on cables. It is just like every other Knit Pearl Girl test that I've ever done. It has been a delight to test for her. The group is chatty, they're supportive, they're wonderful. We've talked about the test knit, we've talked about some other things. Y'all know how much I love a good social aspect of a test knit or a knit along or anything else. And so I've really enjoyed interacting with everyone, and everybody's yarn choices are so beautiful. And this pattern is fantastic. Now, we have found a few things, and Sophie indicated that there were some things that just got past her and the tech editor, and she is always so apologetic about that. But this is why people test knit. This is why you test knit, because we're all human beings. We all miss things. And some things, yes, can be missed by multiple people. If I've learned anything by being in IT for as long as I have, you can have a developer who writes the code, review his own code. Then you can have them handed over to somebody on the team to do a peer review. Then you can have them handed over to somebody else to do another review on another team, or another, you know, maybe they're not a coder and they're just looking at it for making sure that everything looks right. Whatever, you can do this 2 or 3 times, and then you hand it over for the software to be tested, and inevitably the tester will find something. And this is why we test, because nobody's perfect. And so testers will be able to use the software the way that the customers are going to use it. We testers in the knitting world are going to knit the project the way that a knitter would knit it. And sometimes things do make it through and we're able to find them. And this is to make things better for the end user. So I have quite a ways to go on this, but I am actually going to do something. I'm just going to tease y'all right now because I'm not going to tell y'all what it is. But I'm going to do something a little bit different in the next couple of weeks. And so we shall see how long it's going to take me to get these off my needles. And speaking of needles, I'm going to show you my stitch stoppers. And I stayed with kind of a fruit theme on several of them today. And this is the bananas. Just little bunches of bananas, and they're really cute because not only do they have the yellow, but they've got the little brown up there, so they actually look like little bananas. They got the brown on each end. All right, now next up for my test knits is the Aiden Sweater by Stitches and Stem, Michaela at Stitches and Stem. And I've told y'all several times the story about that she recreated this, an old sweater of her grandfather's, in honor of him, and his name was Aiden, and so she named it the Aiden Sweater. I have finally managed to get far enough along on this that you can really see how it's coming together. This is so much prettier. I am really glad that I am doing it in the heavy merino. I think the stitch definition is just gorgeous. I think that it is knitting up perfect, and the sizing is so much better. It is going to fit really, really well. This is not blocked yet, so it will stretch whenever it blocks. I cannot wait to see this fabric blocked. I highly doubt it because I really want to get this done, but I might, whenever I get done with this ball of yarn, or whenever I have to cut it to then pick up the front. I've got, I think, 18 more rows before I do that, and I mean, I probably won't use all of this on 18 rows. So I might go ahead and block it just to see how it blocks out and see how pretty it turns out, because blocking makes such a difference. This as well is a very, very nice pattern. We have found a few things. I'm going to be honest, I don't know if Michaela had this tech edited or not. I haven't asked, but I will tell you she's going to put it out as a free pattern. So if she didn't have it tech edited, I can't blame her, because who wants to go in the hole and spend money to put something out there, right? Now, I know there's a whole controversy about whether test knitters should be used to check out the maths and everything else, but I don't know. maybe other people have found more than I have, but I haven't really found anything wrong with the pattern. And she is in Stitches and STEM. STEM stands for the science. I think she is in IT as well. And so she has a great attention to detail. And so far this is just turning out lovely, and it's been a pleasure to knit. And isn't that just pretty right there? I love that cable that's, you know, bordering those honeycomb cables. It's just so pretty. It reminds me a little bit of a barber pole. All right, not a lot to say about this. This is the Heavy Merino in the colorway Ballerina Pink by Knitting for Olive. One of my favorite colorways. I think this is just such a pretty color. And boy, these stitches, they really show off. All right, now, one of my cast-ons. I told you this was going to rival the other one for cuteness. Look at this. And I mean, it's very sad right now because it's not blocked and it's just acting all kinds of ways. But I cast this on last Friday. Today is Wednesday because I record on Wednesday, so I cast it on Friday. We went to the movies Monday night, and Monday morning I split for sleeves. So I had gotten it this far. I love this. This is the Nollaig by Rebecca Clow, or the Crayabea. It is her new test knit, and she's got every size from like 6 months to, I think, a 5X or something like that in a women's size. She is always very size inclusive, and this has the baby ones. This is going to be her pattern that she does for charity this year. So I thought what I would do, because I always buy the pattern every year because I want to support the Fistula Foundation, and she does such great patterns. When this releases, I am going to give one away on that week's podcast so that I can go ahead and I will be able to buy the pattern to support the foundation, and one of you will be the lucky recipients of it. I'll give you more details as we get closer to that date. And like I said, I went to the movies Monday night, and I don't know, I had knitted a little bit further down. I was probably to about right there. And I had 2 hours. We went and saw Spider-Man, so it was about a 2-hour movie. So I had 2 hours that I just sat there and knit. I got home and I measured it, and I was like, oh, well, I'm done with the body. So before I went to bed that night, I went ahead and did the ribbing, which didn't take any time. This is a DK weight. And this is the Friendly Products Variations, is the blue. And it is, I don't remember the colorway. I'll put it down here. It's a really beautiful, it's a superwash DK. And then for the Snowflake, I used Sparta Ferret. No, I did not. I used Yarnsmith's DK in one of the colors that I got that I wasn't sure which one I was going to use for Brandon's color work on his moose sweater. And one of the ones that I didn't use on that, I grabbed and I used, I mean, I probably didn't even use 10 grams of it. I'm sure that I probably used like 3 or 4 grams of it. It didn't use much at all. This is a teeny tiny little sweater. I could have gotten the sleeves done before today, but I decided I wanted to work on some other things, and I didn't want to just show up and be like, oh, look, I finished this since last week. I cast it on and finished it. I thought that it would be nice to have a finished object next week, because this will be finished next week. It'll take me a couple hours to do the sleeves. But isn't that adorable? And oh my gosh, if you have children and you want to do a Christmas mommy and kiddos, and you can even do a men's version too, right? So you could have a whole family in these sweaters. Or if you're a Grammy and you want to do a Grammy and me sweater, these would be so cute, because she has the same, most of them are the same motifs for the adults and for the children. All right. Cute. I love this. And I do think this is the first year that she's done a sweater for the charity pattern. Last year was a hot water bottle cover, a scarf, and a bag, a knitting bag. And I don't remember what it was the year before that. But she has a different one every year. All right, now I'm going to pivot, because I'm going to talk about something after this that well, it does have to do with knitting, but it's not a knitted object. So last week I forgot to talk about this. And this is the Skyline by Yumiko Alexander, or Yumiko. I think it's Yumiko Alexander. And This is made out of her linen, the Dando linen. And that's supposed to be the underarms. Not sure, I may have to move those. But I'm probably about halfway done with this because I do want the longer version. So I am going towards the 23.5 inch. I might do 21. I'll have to see whenever I get to that point. But I've got quite a ways to go. I never meet my row gauge. But it is delightful. It's not hard at all. It is just knitting back and forth, and you have a little bit of a yarn over and a decrease right afterwards. And then you move them around. The hardest part is making sure that your stitch stoppers or your stitch markers don't do what this one is trying to do, and they don't get on the wrong side of the yarn over. Because your yarn over is like when you're knitting it, it's before the stitch marker, and sometimes I'll be knitting along and I'm like, that moved, and it's on the other side, so then I have to move my stitch marker. So that's the hardest part about it. That's it. Is just making sure that stitch marker does not move. All right. Not a whole lot to say about this. It's a nice quick knit, and like I said, I forgot to talk about this last week. I did work on it last week. It's not like that I went from just right down here to here in a week. This is 2 weeks worth of work, and I'm not in any huge hurry to get this done. I would like to because it's a buddy knit. Or a cowl actually, with Gina from I Knit and I Know Things, and several of other viewers of hers and mine, and we have just been really enjoying it. Several people have got theirs done. I am bringing up the rear as always, but it will eventually get done, and then I will block it and I will wear it. I'm hoping that it's not going to be quite that see-through, but I have a feeling it will be because that is how she designed it with the gauge. I love this linen, and I really do want to use this linen for something else, but I would do it with the tighter gauge because I actually want it to be something where I don't have to wear something under it. So I will find a pattern that calls for linen, and I will use this linen. She calls it a worsted. I think that you could get a fingering, definitely a sport or a DK, but I think you could get a fingering gauge out of this. But there will be more of this linen in my future. For sure, at least one, because I have another whole top worth for her agave. All right, and with that, I'm going to pivot a little bit. So you can imagine my delight when WHCool reached out to me, and they asked me if I wanted to test and review some compression gloves that help with pain when you are doing knitting, you're doing, typing, sewing, etc. I was very excited when they reached out, and they did send these to me for free. So I want to be completely open and honest and transparent. I did not pay for these. But they did not ask me to say anything that was not true. They asked for my honest review. And I'm going to tell you honestly, I'm probably not the best test subject for these because I don't get a hand pain whenever I knit. I hear a lot of people, and the reason I wanted to talk about this now is I hear a lot of people talk about when they knit with cotton or linen that it really bothers their hands. It hurts their hands. I don't have that problem. I just don't really get hand pain. But I will tell you, when I wear these, I do notice a difference. My hands feel a little bit better. I'm not curing pain, so I can't speak to, does this make pain go away if you normally get pain? I don't know. I don't get pain. But what I can tell you is after I've worn these and knitted for a while, that they do feel a little bit better. And I do notice that I feel like that my hands are, have a little bit more blood flow to them, and they feel a little bit better. Now, I'm going to pause for just a second because I want to put a video up here that shows you the packaging that they sent these in. They are packaged so nicely. And I also set up what I was going to try to do to test them. Apparently, I did not hit record. Well, I was not diligent and did not do the 2 hours every single night. But I did test them almost every single day, and I did test them for at least an hour every time I put them on. I do enjoy these, and I am actually going to buy a second pair in the next size up. because I ordered, when they asked me what size I wanted, they come in this really pretty, you know, flesh color, and then they have a black. And when they asked me what I wanted, I told them pink, or if they didn't have pink, I wanted flesh color, and then I wore a size small because that's the size I always have. I have small hands. I don't have big hands, so I always get a small. Well, then whenever I was checking out their product with the link that they sent me, which I will post in the description, it is the link that will give you a 10% discount if you do plan to buy them. It takes you to Amazon. They sell through Amazon. They're an Amazon reseller. So it'll take you to Amazon, and I clicked on that link. It took me there. The discount worked. It was very, very nice. And full transparency, I do get a small commission if you do buy. No pressure. I just want y'all to be aware of that. And I chose, like I said, the small, the flesh colored. And then whenever I clicked on that link, whenever they sent it, to check everything out, make sure everything worked and all of that, I saw they have a sizing guide, and they tell you how to measure and how to figure out what size you need. So I measured my palm, and it says, according to the sizing guide, that I should have gotten a medium. So I thought that, you know, because I do like them enough that I will purchase myself a pair, I'm going to get a black pair in mediums. So again, I do like them. I do find myself wanting to pick them up. It's not curing pain. I don't get pain, but my hands do feel a little bit better after I wear them. Now, there is one thing that I will say that I wish was different. I love the fact you can look at the fingers, and there's some very nice like compression on your joints. Look how small my fingers are. I wish these ended about here, because while I can do things with my fingers, I've typed with them, I've done all of that, it would be much more comfortable if the fingers ended a little bit smaller. So I wish that they had different lengths that I could choose as well. All right, so now I'm going to stop talking about these, but I did want to let y'all know about these because I have been overall fairly impressed with them. Like I said, I cannot answer your question about whether they cure pain or not, and they make no claims about that. They're not saying that, oh yes, we cure everything. They were just very honest that these are compression gloves that are supposed to help by supporting you while you're doing certain things like knitting, sewing, etc. All right, everything will be linked in the description. All right, and then going from there, everything else I've got is wool. And I'm going to talk about one of my new cast-ons. Y'all may have noticed that I showed a picture a few episodes ago about that I had put all of this photo of all of these colors of yarn, and I'm trying to get back here to get this one. And one of my colors that I was starting with was the Mariner by Holzgarn Super Soft, and I was going to do this big color work pattern, and I was buddy knitting with my friend Maria, who's the Knitting Shepherdess, who is also on YouTube. I was very excited about it. Well, you might have noticed I talked about it one time and it went by the wayside, and I didn't say anything about it. Well, the problem is Maria reached out to me and said, if you haven't gotten very far, you should probably scrap the whole thing. This pattern is not well written. It doesn't appear to have been test knitted. Everything is off. You have to make adjustments. Nothing lines up. You can look at some of her later patterns and all of her charts line up. It did look a little odd to me. And Maria just said, you know, I just don't think that you should knit this. And I decided I didn't have the brain space at that point to try to knit it and try to make adjustments and try to adjust the chart and everything. Maybe later, because it is a really beautiful pattern, and I paid about $11 for it, so I'd like to knit it. But anyway, having said that, I did rip it out and I decided not to do it. Well, Maria reached out the other day and said, hey, I found another pattern. Would you be willing to knit this? And I said yes, because I do really want to do a buddy knit with her. We had already decided to do this whenever all of that came up. So she asked me about the Widow's Kiss by Thea Coleman, or Baby Cocktails. And I have had that one on my radar for a while now. So I said yes. And then I went hunting in my stash. What can I use it with it? And what came up is this beautiful Blue Face Luster. This is a discontinued yarn. I am so sorry. I am going to put a picture of the Widow's Kiss up here so that you can see it. Oh, it's so pretty. And it is a cabled sweater. I am having a cable heyday right now. Almost everything I've got on my needles is cables. So this is going to be a cabled sweater, and it is from the bottom up, and you start with the sleeves. So this is the sleeve. And this is out of Juniper Moon, Blueface Leicester, and the colorway is, I want to say it's dragon fruit, but I don't think that's right. I think it's fuchsia something. I'll put the name down here. I've got it in the other room. I just don't remember what it is, but it's, look at that pink. It is such a beautiful, I would call this magenta, but oh, it's such a pretty, pretty, pretty color. And so I have got my little yarn ball here, and I'm going away. Well, I'm going to show you these real quick, my little watermelons, and then I'm going to talk about what I did. This is a bottom up, and I have learned, I say all the time, there's no reason you cannot try on a bottom up, and there is no reason you cannot try on a bottom up sweater. It is a little harder to figure it out. But what I am learning is, from the last 3 things I've tried to do bottom up, is I have a much different gauge when I knit something bottom up than when I knit something top down. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it is such a bigger surface, because you cast on all the stitches and you go from there when you do bottom up. I don't know if it's because of that. I know this yarn is a little bit thicker than what she recommended. Hers was like 260 yards maybe, and this is 202. I mean, there is a difference, but not enough to account for the full gauge difference that I got. There is a little bit of a gauge difference in this small circumference. In the bigger one, there was a lot. And so I am discovering that I knit much, much different with a much looser gauge when I knit bottom up than when I knit top down. This is why I have gotten to where that I start my project and use the project as my gauge swatch instead of doing just a 4x4 gauge swatch. I'm sorry, I've got my nose, I've got some kind of yarn floating around here. But I just, these small swatches have lied to me way too many times, so now I just use part of the project. And I will show you another one that, and this is not all the way, but this is 368, I think it is, stitches, and I don't have this pulled out all the way because the cord's not long enough. I measured it. I am trying to knit the 51-inch circumference, because that would give me the 5 inches of ease for my size. When I laid this out and I had it on the needles to where I could really lay it out and it wasn't crumbled up like this, it was 62.5 inches. It was huge. I mean, you can see here, right? Look at how much further along that is. I mean, that's huge. And that's not even all the way. 62.5 inches. So I went and figured out the gauge, and while she got a 29-inch gauge on her ribbing, mine was 20.68. What? So I went and I used Good Knits. Sherry with Good Knits has released her Cast Along app. And I went and used her app and used the calculator to see what size I needed to knit. And it told me, and so I am going to be casting that on. I have another ball wound up, and I'm going to cast that on. I haven't done it yet, and I haven't ripped this out yet because I wanted to talk about this, and then I will cast on the bottom of the sweater, and I'll knit it along with the sleeves. But I'm going to cast on the size that it says to knit, which is like the next to smallest size. So I'm a little nervous about that, but I can cast it on, I can try it on, and I can continue to try it on, and if I need to, I can always increase as I go up. I don't think I'm going to need to. This is huge. Check your gauge. How you knit makes a difference. I'm a fairly tight knitter, but not when I'm knitting bottom up. It has something to do with having all of the stitches on there. I don't know what it is, but I do knit at a much, much looser gauge when I knit bottom up. So now I'm interested in knowing if I would make gauge if I knit bottom up on like a Sari Nordland or something, because she is has such a looser gauge than I do. So it would be an interesting experiment. I did cast on the size that it would normally be for my size because my arms are a little bit bigger and I wanted to make sure I accommodated them. And I'm just trying them on, and so far looks fine. I'm not sure that I'm going to need to increase all the way though, because it is, you know, I think it's going to be plenty big, but I'm just going to keep trying it on, and I'll get it to about right here probably before I quit it. So, all right, but this is The Widow's Kiss by Thea Coleman, or Baby Cocktails, and it is going to be, and I am going to use the word, stunning. And I just am having a cabling time, because here again is this wonderful little buddy knit that has been on the needles for the longest with the buddy knit part, and it is the Bookclub Raglan. It's backwards. The Bookclub Raglan by Sorry Nordland. And I'm knitting this with Chelsea from Sunday Knitting Society, and Melissa and Chris, who are my viewers. And Chris and Chelsea are already done, and Melissa and I are bringing up the rear. I am trying to get this done. I am on that 7th cable, and you can see I've almost gotten it. I've got one more to take to the inside before then I do a couple of rows straight, and then I pull them outside, and then I will do the ribbing because it should be long enough. So I'm almost done with the body of this. I'm hopeful that next week I will have the body done of this. It is just such a pretty, pretty pattern. I cannot wait to get this done. Again, not in a huge hurry because it is still hot outside, but boy, it's going to be fall before we know it. Michelle on Easily Knits Fluenced was talking last week about there was a crisp in the air and she could sense fall, and I was thinking, this was like on Friday when I was watching it, I was like, whatever, it's because you live in New York. And I got up Saturday morning and there was fall in the air. I was really shocked. Now we're back to walking on the surface of the sun, but that's okay. We had a little glimpse. So it will be here before I know it, and I do want this ready to go. And I'm knitting this out of some dead stock yarn. I got it Woolly Yarn, and it is in the colorway Demi-Tasse, and it's just 100% merino. All right. Now, I want to talk, speaking of cones and stuff, if you've watched my cone video that was released this morning, you know I said something about JC Rennie that I was going to wait, and around Black Friday I was going to order. I don't know of any Black Friday sales that they do, so it wasn't about a sale, but I lose all self-control at that time of the year, and that's when I say, okay, this is my Christmas present to myself. So if I'm going to make some pretty big expenditures, I tend to wait until around then, and then I just make them all at that time, and then that way I recover after the first of the year. So that's why I'm waiting on that. I don't know that they do any kind of sales or anything for Black Friday. I'm just waiting because that's when I like to do my big expenditures. Just wanted to point that out because somebody asked me, oh, do they have a sale? I couldn't find anything. I don't know that they do. All right, and then Buddy Knits. So Marla, I told y'all last week that I needed to check on Marla, and I did check on Marla, and I said that she had been injured and she hadn't been up at the yarn shop. And that is true. But it's not because she's injured that she's not at the yarn shop right now. Marla had a great grandbaby. So congratulations, Marla, and she is gorgeous. She shared pictures with the group and very excited, but I can tell you she is not doing a lot of knitting right now because that baby, I would be holding that baby all the time. So I'm not in a super big rush to try to get this done, but I am knitting on it just a little bit here and there, and this is the Tain sweater by Rebecca Clow. It is out of the 52 Weeks of Sweaters. I'm not sure whether it has been turned back over to her yet or not. I've not seen anything about her releasing the individual pattern. It did throw me at first, but once you can get your head around how you do the short rows with the patterning, it is pretty much smooth sailing from there, or at least so far. I haven't finished the yoke, obviously. And so I have it, as I said last week. Oh, and I didn't show you, those are just the goats I've shown several times. But looking at Ursula reminded me, but I shared last week, I have these two little bulb markers. And so if it's on pink, it's P for pattern. If it's red, it's R for raglan. And I know whether I'm working a pattern row or a raglan increase row. And so I am almost like, I think I've got one more increase row to do before I then do something, a different rate of increase, because they're different per size. So I will need to do something different very, very soon. And this yarn is the Wool Dreamers Moda. It's minimally processed. I keep having to pull, hay and stuff out of it. It reminds me a lot of Durarum Natura Gilead. It's a dry filling yarn, and it is It is rustic. Now, I haven't blocked it, so I don't know how it blooms or anything. The Gilead softens up delightfully, so I'm sure that this will too. But it is a little bit more of a rustic yarn. It's dry, but it's not scratchy or itchy, right? So if you're super sensitive, maybe you wouldn't be able to wear this, but I think it'll soften up next to skin with no problem. Again, take what I say with a grain of salt, because I can wear Icelandic wool next to skin. But this is just going right along, and I am excited about having this. I think this is going to be a really, really pretty sweater. And more of this yarn is in my future. I really like this yarn a lot. And they are going to be at Rhinebeck. Danger Will Robinson. There's a lot. I've gone and looked at the vendors. Rhinebeck's going to be bad for me. All right, and then I'm going to finish my Betty knits, and then I'm going to talk about the other thing that I have on the needles. Then we will switch to acquisitions. So my last Betty knit, I am knitting with Leah from Ruby and Pearls podcast, and she has got hers. She may already have it done by now. She had the sleeves done. She did 3/4 length sleeves because she was running out of yarn. And when she sent me a picture, it was almost the length that it needed to be. It is just beautiful. She did hers out of a silvery linen. It's really, really pretty. You should go and check that out. She had it on her last podcast. And this is the Soft Current sweater by Woolen Pine. And I am knitting this out of Holst-Garn Super Soft Held Double. And it is in the colorway Cranberry. And I do wish that y'all could see this. I did block it since last week. I told y'all last week I was going to block it. Let me see if I can get these to where that I can show a little bit better. If I can get these stitches moved down to this needle off the cable. I did block it last week, so I tried it on. Oh, it lays so much nicer than it did last week. And I wish y'all could reach through here, because I mean, you can see how much nicer it is blocked and how beautiful that lace has come out. It's going to be just so much fun to wear. I wish y'all could feel this. And I had blocked part of it last time. This side had been already washed once. This side had not. I wish that y'all could feel the difference between one washing and two. Between the greasy cone, and you can see it, right? You can see here. I wish that you could feel the difference between the spinning oil, the greasy cone that's still got stuff on it, and then this is 2 washes, and this is 1 wash, and the difference in the feel is just, it's amazing. And it's such a pretty pattern. Look at this. This is the back. Just so pretty. It's got a little dip in the back as well. And then, of course, it's got the V that is not too deep. It's just going to be great. I don't think I'm going to have to wear anything under it. So I'm really excited, or I can if I'm cold. So I'm really, really excited to get this off my needles, and it's going to take a while. I do pick it up. There's a 4-row repeat. And so it's funny because it's like row 1 and 2, and then you do the pattern where you do the cable and lace, and then you do, that's row 3 and then 4. So I pick it up when I'm on row 3, and I do the 4 rows, and then whenever I get back to needing to do the patterning, then I will put it down. I always do at least 4 rows whenever I pick it up, so I know the time commitment that I have if I'm going to pick it up. And so far it's coming right along. It's about right here, just right under the girls, right under my bust line. It will take a little while to get this done, but it is what it is, because I have, 10,000 whips on my needles. And speaking of whips, and this one will need to get done sooner rather than later, because we have a baby coming. I've already shown you last week's finished object was the baby size of this sweater, and this is the Moby Junior by Petite Knit, and this is going to be Big Brothers. So I'm almost to the point where I'm going to pick up the front. I need to do this to a total of 6 inches on the back, and I need to measure again. I don't think I'm quite there, but I probably got a few more rows. What I'm probably going to do, I'm almost done with the chart. I've got a few rows left of the chart, so I'm going to finish off the chart, and then I'm going to measure and see if I need to start the chart over, or if it's a good place to stop and then pick up the fronts. So this will be Big Brothers. This is the size 4 to 5. They do have a 3 to 4, but I chose the 4 to 5 to allow him to grow. And I may or may not make a larger one for the baby. We'll see how much energy I have left whenever I get this done. And I am knitting this out of Yarn Smith's Create DK, which is one of their acrylic yarns. And it is in the colorway Scarlet Red. It's just a really, really nice, soft yarn. All right, so done with all of that, and I'm going to switch over to acquisitions. And some of them I got from Wool Warehouse. I only had the one order from Wool Warehouse. I do have an order that's coming from Holsgarn. It just hasn't made it here yet. It's still in customs for whatever reason. Holsgarn seems to get stuck in customs more than any other thing that I order. So I don't know what it is coming from that part. But I did get my Wool Warehouse, and I got very excited. I wasn't going to order anything else from Wool Warehouse. You know, I was done for a while. And then they released a new cotton, a new fingering weight cotton, and they released it at the price of £1 per ball. So that's like $1.50, $1.50, $1.40, $1.60. Anyway, well under $2 a skein. And I went ahead, I had several colors, but I did decide just to limit myself to 2 just to see, because I wasn't sure if I was going to love the cotton. I do like the cotton. I think it's very nice. I wish it was a little bit shinier. I wish it was a little, not quite so dry, that it was maybe a mercerized, but for the price, I couldn't pass it up. And these will turn into t-shirts, and the colors on these are sapphire blue and claret red or claret red. And these are 100% cotton. They are 160 meters to 50 grams. So they are, you know, 320 per 100. So they're like a sport fingering weight. A heavy fingering or a sport. So I couldn't just order those. I decided if I was going to order, I was going to go ahead because their Create DK was on sale as well. And so I got the baby Aran to see what the Aran weight was like. I got 1 ball of it in this pretty baby mint. These are all just 100% acrylic. I bought them to do baby blankets and little tops. And I just bought these colors that I really, really love. These are all the DKs. That one's the only one that's an Aran. And this one is deep purple. This one's the only one I was disappointed in the color, and I don't really love it. It's plum purple. It's okay. It's not my color, but I'm not the one that's going to wear it. So that's okay. This is my color, magenta. Oh, so pretty. That will make a beautiful blanket or baby knit. And this one as well. This will make a really great top. And this is bottle green. So I went ahead and ordered those. And then I told y'all that I was on a quest to find some more of the 365 cotton that I fell in love with for the Arrow Tee. So I reached out to several people to see if they wanted to sell it. And one lady answered and said she had this fuchsia. I don't know that I would call this fuchsia. It's not exactly what I would think of as fuchsia, but I'm going to use this with the navy, and I'm going to make probably a striped top or something. But she sent this to me. She said she would be happy to get rid of it. It was what was left over from making something, and that she would be happy to send it to me just for shipping. So I responded and told her thank you, and gave her my address, asked her how to get the money to her for shipping, and she never responded. This showed up at my house yesterday. I was shocked. And if you are watching this, and I have sent an email, I sent another message through Ravelry and thanked her and asked her to please let me know how to get the money to her, because I would like to pay her for the shipping. And she still hasn't responded. So if you are watching, thank you, thank you, thank you. That was beyond kind. So I have wound up with another yarn. I would be more than happy to pay for the shipping for this. And if you do know anybody that has some of this, I am still interested in getting some other colors. This is a really great cotton. So that is where I'm at, and I'm just going to tell you, I said I wasn't buying anything in August, and yeah, I have already lost that because I'm fixing to place a dead stock order. I have found some stuff that I just really, really want, and I don't, with dead stock, you got to get it while you can. So I am going to go ahead and place an order for that. And I bought some D-stash, but I'm not sure if that was August or July. Anyway, it'll be here next week. And so I am not winning that. I don't know why I thought that I would, but anyway, it is what it is. I'm just going to accept that about myself. All right. So anyway, I am going to stop rambling on. I will tell you, I got a B12 shot last week. Whenever I got done recording, I went and picked up the medication. I called a friend of mine who's a nurse, and they gave me the shot. And then I now am going to be able to give them to myself, but they didn't have the correct gauge of needle for me to do it myself, and I couldn't stick an inch-long needle in my belly. I just could not do that, so they did it in my arm for me. And so I felt better pretty immediately, and then the next night I was at the yarn shop, and I was talking to Ginger, my friend who's a nurse practitioner there, and I was telling her all about, you know, the saga that was going on, and I was like, blah, 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 and I could see the look on her face, and I told her later, I said, I could tell by the look on your face, you were like, oh yeah, you got a B12 shot. It has made such a difference. Now I'm a week out, and I will tell you, I am noticing like some fatigue coming back and stuff like that, but I'm deliberately not taking the shot until Friday, because I take my Mounjaro shot at the same time on Fridays, so I want to do both of them at the same time and get them out of the way. That way I can remember both of them. So anyway, it is great. And as I said last week, if you're a woman over 40, go have a mammogram, and I'm going to tell a couple of really funny stories. So if you don't care about hearing about mammograms, especially if you're a guy and you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to hear this, then you can leave now. This will be the very end of the podcast. But for those of us who have had them, I think that y'all will appreciate these. One is one of the places, so we have a place called the Breast Center that does the mammograms. And there are places in all of the cities. And when I worked in Bentonville, it made sense. I would go by and I'd get it done and I'd go to work. And at that location, they had the funniest comic strip cut out, and it said, oh, hi, Melissa, I see you had a mammogram today. And there were two women there talking, and the other woman, right, would say, why do you ask? As, you know, her breasts were sticking out straight. If you've ever had a mammogram, you will find that very funny. Now, the other one is the little story. My grandmother had breast cancer, and this is one reason I do champion mammograms and everything else, because my grandmother had breast cancer. Well, my grandfather, after she had passed away, and it had been probably 6 months or a year, he found a lump in his chest. And so he went to the doctor. This is the one that I told you. He said, you know, when I'm having a problem, I go to the doctor, I listen, and I do what the doctor says. So he goes to the doctor, and the first thing that's funny is the doctor asked him, who was also my grandmother's doctor, said, you know, do you have a family history of breast cancer? And he says, well, my wife had it. And the doctor was like, yes, I know, but you know, y'all aren't biologically related, so that would not have carried over. But he had him go have a mammogram. And this was the man that, I mean, he was born in 1897, so he was pretty, like, you don't do certain things, and you certainly do not talk about mammograms. That's not something you would talk about. But my mother, who was his daughter-in-law, because this was my dad's dad, we go down the weekend after he gets this done, and he goes, Carol, is that what you women have to go through when y'all get that? I'm so sorry. And it was so funny, but it's very different for especially a little old man, because, you know, they just don't have very much breast tissue, and then to have to stretch it. But I just thought that was so cute that, you know, first of all, he was like, oh yeah, my wife had it, like not thinking about we're not biologically related. And then the other where he experienced something that not many men get to experience, and he was very then sympathetic and empathetic towards women who had to go through this every single year. And with that, I am going to sign off. I'm going to stop talking about it, but I hope that everybody, until I see you again, has a fantastic, knitty